And then I'll turn it off when we start our sharing part. And normally for these live sessions, the format is meditation, reflection, and group share. This time I'm going to flip the meditation practice with the reflection, because I think the reflection, which is coming through my mouth, and obviously I'll be giving some of my own thoughts on it, but it's largely Gangaji's thought, just to give her really proper credit. And I want to start with that because that'll lead us into the meditation practice. Let's get, that'll lead us into the meditation practice. So, all right. So the title of this session that we're having together is Fire of Living Prayer. Fire of Living Prayer. And I am curious, and please save it for the group share, if you grew up with any kind of being taught to pray, and just hold that in your reflection and share if you have. Well, we'll wait till we do our group share, because oftentimes children are taught to prayer, to say a prayer before going to bed, or to say a prayer before a family meal. Those are probably the two most popular teachings in the Western world on prayer. And oftentimes when children are taught to pray before they go to bed, they say a prayer that's actually really from, I think, a time of the plague or something like that. But now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. And it talks about staying alive, being protected by a God that will allow the little child to wake up in the morning. And that if the child isn't going to wake up in the morning, that at least the child goes to heaven. So, best case scenario, either I'm here and I'm still alive, made it through whatever the plague or whatever it was the prayer came about, or I'm just beeline right to heaven. That's one popular set of prayers. And then secondarily to that, oftentimes children are taught to say a prayer that everybody they love is cared for as well. Please take care of mom and dad. Please take care of my sister Sue. Please take care of my Aunt Joyce. So they're taught that. And then the second thing is praying over food, right? And with that as well, while we have ceremonial prayers over food, there was as well oftentimes eras where praying over food was because food could actually be rancid, and saying the prayer over the food was like, okay, we're taking this in and hopefully we'll stay healthy in it. So when you reflect upon your own life and whether when you were little you were taught to pray or not, it points us to the topic in a really dynamic way tonight. Because very often prayer comes about. Hold on a second, sure. Give me just a minute here. It looks like my computer is weirdly going out of battery. Let me make sure the plug is on. There we go. It points to something, because when we're praying, we are oftentimes praying for something. We're praying for something. And what is that something that we pray for? When we're little, what are we praying for? When we're in adolescence, if we pray, what are we praying for? When we come into adulthood, what do we pray for? In the seasons of our lives, what are we praying for? And even if you don't use the word pray, like you're going like this, Dear God. Prayer oftentimes has that. And I want to break that open because prayer is obviously much more delicious than just fold the hands, lower the head, and say, Dear God. What are the kinds of things that we're praying for? And if we don't pray, what are kinds of things that we find ourselves stirred that we wish for? And if we don't really wish, what are the kinds of things that we're stirred and we desire? Right? I think it's fair to say that every human being has desires. Maybe every human being may not say they pray, but to have a desire, I desire good health, or I desire inner peace, or I desire to know what to do with my life. These desires, they arise from within us. And they give us the opportunity to get in touch with something of our wild heart. Now, Gangaji in this one talk I was watching, she said that when she was in high school, she started praying that her mom would stop drinking. Her mom had a challenge with drinking. And she would pray so hard that her mom would stop drinking. For her mom's sake, for herself, family life in general. She said, and then a little bit later, maybe into her 30s, maybe her 20s, but after she moved out of being a teenager, she had an insight. And she said she realized what she was really praying for was that she would feel her mom's love. And she was creating an idea that because her mom drank to excess, that it limited her feeling her mom's love. But see there, and she points out so well in this talk, see there, she felt limited from feeling her mom's love because her mom drank too much. See, the external prayer, stop drinking. But the reference is that she wants to feel her mom's love. And she's the agency, the place where she is feeling. When she realized that, she shifted her desire to feel her mom's love. And she had the awakening moment that there was nothing limiting her from feeling her mom's love every single moment, except that idea that put up the block. And it opened her to experience her mom's love as it appeared. She was drunk because her mom never had the prayer or the desire deep enough to not have alcohol be a part of her life, at least in this story. I don't know if later in her life. So her mom's desire seemed to be at odds with her desire. But when she understood that her desire wasn't actually having to do with the drinking per se, that was her judgment on the experience. It had to do with her feeling her mom's love. And there was no limit. She could feel her mom's love even when her mom was completely wasted. Isn't that interesting? So in that, she could move into what she called was a fire of a living prayer, of a living prayer, which then orients us. And I know we've come at this from many angles in various meetings that we've had. We want to bring our attention to the source of the prayer. Because when we bring our attention to the source of the prayer, the desire, I'm using the word prayer here because it's a nice change up on a word. We have the glimpse of ourselves as larger than our bodies. And in that, then, when we have that glimpse of larger than our bodies, we naturally look to see that reflected back to us. That's why we join groups. That's why we do little workshops. That's why we choose lineages. Because the force within ourselves that's seeking itself, that self that is larger than the body, that is seeking the fullness of self, naturally gravitates towards situations where it can be reflected back. And then even in those situations, we discover over and again that while we're oriented to displace this desire, that it will always fall short and we will be turned again and again and again to the source of the prayer. And it's a wonderful reflection question. What is the source of your prayer? How would you talk to that? How would you define it? And does your definition of that, does your explanation of that really ring true for you? Really be juicy. That's what we're talking about, being really juicy for you. We have a culture that villainizes desire, villainizes things like this. But what we want to do is we don't want to stop desiring. We want to stop desiring for something. We don't want to stop praying. We want to stop praying for something. We don't want to stop desire, and we want to stop trying to feed the desire with something. Because when we come to the source of the desire itself is given the freedom to rage in a fire. The title that I started with, The Fire of the Living Prayer. Living prayer is the raging fire that is the desire. And what's mysterious about this, and it's worthy of reflecting upon yourself, like, is it true for me? Gangaji follows up. Like, I like what she follows it up with. I'm like, oh yeah, that feels really true. But then I have to pause and say, but how true is it? She goes on to say that this fire seeks to consume itself. Where can you go with that? If you move away from the desire of something, I long for peace. I long to have clarity. I long to have this happen in a relationship. I long for a relationship. I long to have a greater light on my life purpose. I long to be able to heal my frozen shoulder. I long, 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 long And there's a modeling that we have there, because we can move into obsession with this kind of praying as though we're being vigilant. Ah, right. So vigilance holds a candle before. Obsession grasps after. And we have this when we have this longing for something. What we do is, in very limited form, there's a sweet consolation there for us. There's a sweet, oh, so sweet. So it seems like, that's so futile. I keep displacing my power. It's so futile. But in that movement, in the futility of it, we see a bit of the model of the raging fire that wants nothing less than to consume itself, the desire that wishes to consume itself. And in that comes great, great fulfillment. Oftentimes, prayers, desires, wishes have hidden agendas of escape, an escape from suffering, escape into fulfillment. However, what happens as we step back into the source of the prayer, what happens is the praying itself, that praying itself is a fire of no escape, because in it is the fulfillment. And even then, the beauty of this ego that we have, right? The ego is quite villainized, because so often the ego wants to set up these false senses of self, which is worthy to take very seriously. But in this place, the ego can come in. It can harness your faculties inward so that your heart comes out. Your heart comes out. And what falls away? Pretense. What falls away? Posturing. What falls away? Complicated agendas. What falls away? Strategies around life. They fall away. And staying here where there's no escape, the discovery can happen. So one little bit of practical advice that Gangaji gives is, in opening to being the living prayer, we let go of hope for the something. And it's really easy to catch where we might have just like a little bit of a hook. Like we let go of the hope generally, but then there's always, but it sure would be nice if this worked out. And we hold it in there. I know that I have done that in the guise of potentiality. Anything's possible. But then when I get really vulnerable, I'm like, yeah, that can be so out in the field. But in my inner state, I can't be leveraging my surrender in this state with a little bit of, well, and I'm hoping I'm going to also get this to put in my pocket. Letting go of all hope. And I was reflecting a bit on this, because what if the desire that is happening within us of this fire of the living prayer, so the pure desire of consciousness of love, of source, the source. So the source, what if within it there is the desire for certain bits of anguish to disappear? For instance, what if some of the stress in your life is showing up with mental anguish? The strain is such that there's mental anguish. And mental anguish can be very debilitating. Any kind of deep traumatic things like that can, but let's just take mental anguish. How then do we let go of all the hope for fruit, like holding the desire that our minds may be at peace? How do we hold that and also simultaneously let it go? What if we fear that the mental anguish will never go away? And again, this could be anything, but I'll just take that because that's pretty painful. What if on our letting go, we're letting go of hope of that ever going away? And is that failing in responsibility to ourselves? Is that abandoning the amazing healing techniques that we have? I'm exploring that, but my contribution here is that in order to pray and be that living prayer, there needs to be the surrender of all, the hope for all, the acceptance. Maybe I'll never sleep again because of menopause, the real letting go. Maybe this obsessive thought is gonna rear its head for the rest of my life. But we're not saying yes to it happening. We're not resigning to suffering or pain without suffering even. What we're doing is we're letting go the obsession with the object-based way of praying. And in that, what happens is the power structure shifts. And my take is that we actually come to a place where the health of our being is found. And let's say it was mental anguish, that it finds alignment. I think there are fruits I've experienced in my own awakening process as it continues. There are fruits that take place that then become stable parts of our being. But they don't take place because we were at it and on it. I prayed for it. Oh, I prayed for it. Oh, yes, I prayed for it. But because we really said, I give up, I let go. And I come to the source of what's even underneath that. Mental anguish comes from a lot of different strains and thoughts that create dis-ease. We come to the knowing that is peace. So for our practice today, I thought it would be really lovely if we hold space for each other to silently pray in this way, not praying for something. And what I'll do is, as we close our eyes and open up to pray, to desire, to wish, I'll guide a few things, and you'll be invited to key in on maybe like one desire you have right now, to let that be the place that the prayer happens. So we'll just do a little bit of guiding with that. And then we'll have a bit of period of silence so that You can pray honestly, sincerely. And it can be speaking to, it can be speaking as, it can be just presencing of, but let it be honest. And even if you're hitting walls and you don't know how to pray, there's a great charismatic song I loved growing up. We were Catholic charismatic, and it was by Joe Wise. It's called Lord, Teach Us to Pray. And it hits upon all the limited ways that we pray, all the ways we want to kind of you know, keep our posture. And he kind of slowly dismantles it with these fun rhyming statements. Because we to be honest in prayer is to reveal the underbelly of what's happening within the heart. So let's go ahead and do that. So I invite you to close your eyes. And come close to desire. One desire that is stirring within you. All desires are good. That have to do with anything, your body, mind, your heart, life, family, friends, finances, career, the world, stability. One desire. And now see if you can let that desire, as it's here as a messenger, reveal to you the source of it. What's under it? What's the source of it? What's like Gangaji wanting to feel love? Now, as you come to that underbelly, in your own way, with your own silent words, with your own intentions and presence, be in a prayerful state with the underbelly of this desire. And I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. We're going to hold space for each other. Now's your time. Bring your vulnerability, your earnestness. Staying with this prayerful state, you are heard, you are seen, you are held. We bring this time of prayerful presencing to a close. I invite you to bring your palms together in front of your heart and open your eyes with namaste. Namaste. Right? All right. So now we have a time for sharing. And I'm going to open up to any sharing. It could be on this topic and what your take is with prayer, or anything of the series so far. And just come off mute and introduce yourself.